Hello, nerds.
Hello, nerds.
I've got Marcus Flowers from Georgia who is running against someone that we all know and are aware of, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a brave man running in a very red district as far as I can tell. Welcome to the show, Marcus.
Well, thank you for having me, Tom, and hello, nerds, once again.
I'd love to start with a little bit of background about you. I know you've served the country in other capacities, and I'm curious what led you to this point. But give us a little bit of the early Marcus story.
Well, the early Marcus story, there's not a whole lot there. I was born in a place called Troy, Alabama. For those of you who are familiar with our former Congressman John Lewis, it's also his birthplace. I wouldn't say that I had a particularly stunning childhood. At 11 years old, I was placed in a children's home for a little while because my family, like many families, not only in this district but throughout the country, went through some really tough times, and that was a tough thing to go through. But it taught me a little bit about faith. Kids would make fun of me for not having my parents around, not having decent clothes or shoes. But that also taught me how to deal with bullies at a very young age. And at 18 years old, I joined the Army and I swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that's basically what I've been doing for the last almost 3 decades as a soldier, a former defense contractor with Department of Defense, Department of State, and a government official for the Department of Defense most recently. Stated simply, service to this country has been my life. My background is in logistics and compliance, but I've served helping our intelligence and electronics warfare capacity with our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. I've done logistics operations on 4 different continents. And again, service to this country has been something that I've, hung my hat on, so to speak. And that's who I am.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your service. It sounds like decades of service, so that's incredible.
No, it's my
And
pleasure to serve.
I'm sure you were probably in some tight situations, and I'm glad you're here with us. Tell me about the decision to run for office, because I often think of people who choose to go in the path of the military. It's a bit of a, it's not in the spotlight all the time,
Right.
and running for Congress, different environment. Tell me about that decision.
You're absolutely correct, Tom. That's it. This is a totally different ball game from, what I'm used to. And I tell you, I got to take you back a little bit to really give you a sense of why I'm doing this. Now, my granddaddy was a sheriff and a farmer, and that's why I wear a cowboy hat. Most of the time you see me with that, he wore a black cowboy hat when he was out on the farm, and then when he was out in the community in his sheriff's hat. So he died when I was 11 years old, and I think I got that sense of service from my granddaddy. My daddy was a teacher here in the district for 31 years before he passed. Uncles who were police captains. One of my uncles was a soldier, and at 6 years old, I saw him in uniform. 6 or 7, saw him in uniform one day, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to be a soldier, and it just stuck with me. But in the summer of 2020, when I watched George Floyd being murdered at the knee of a police officer, I was working for the Department of Defense at the time. I looked at that, and I'm sure, like most people, it was a collective shock to watch, a police officer being so cold and callous in his murder of a fellow human being. But I knew that's not who we were. I knew that's not who our law enforcement officials were, because I have law enforcement officials in my family. I watched over the course of that same summer as the misinformation and disinformation campaign grew louder and louder. Now, as a government official for DOD, I was bound by Hatch Act, so I couldn't be outwardly political. I'd always considered myself nonpartisan and apolitical, really. just serving the nation. That was my job, to accomplish the mission. But coming from the world of intelligence and electronics warfare, I know how dangerous misinformation and disinformation are, and how it always leads to violence and unnecessary death. Over the course of that summer, Marjorie Taylor Greene came onto my radar. She just won a primary in our district, and you know that year the Democratic nominee dropped out of the general election due to death threats and personal issues. So I knew she was going to be our representative. Mm. I did a deep dive on her. Besides just seeing the commercials that she was airing in the district, and I saw all of the wild conspiracy theories saying, a plane didn't hit the Pentagon on 9/11. I spent a decade in combat zones in Iraq and Afghanistan, after 9/11. So, that meant something to me. I lost brothers and sisters in arms and colleagues in those countries who were fighting for our democracy. So I reached out to her and I said, walk back some of these statements. This isn't who we are as a district. If you're going to represent us, you've got to walk some of these wild conspiracy theories back and let us know that you're going to truly represent the district. Fast forward to January 6th, she and others had been pushing the big lie since Election Day, and they drove those people, in my opinion, to that Capitol to attack and try and overthrow our government. I look at it in black and white terms. That's what they were there to do, to stop an election from happening, which is, a peaceful transition of power is the cornerstone of our free and fair elections and our democracy. And I felt that she sent a lot of those people to the Capitol. So on January 7th, after watching that, I resigned my post as a government official and decided to run for Congress against Marjorie Taylor Greene, because that's truly not who we are. And I think democracy is really under threat right now for those who are on the extreme right of our political party.
So a lot of people that watch this show come from all over the country, and I think they would very much agree with what you're saying. Your district looks like it went 75% Trump in 2020. And I'm wondering, how does that message land in sort of Marjorie Taylor Greene country? I mean, it seems like that might be a hard message to land, or what are people saying when you talk about how, why you decided to run and how you thought this was, kind of beyond the pale?
I started this campaign 18 months ago, and I've been humbled by the outpouring of support that we've gotten. I get out, knock doors, I talk to our neighbors, I meet people where they are, I talk to our mayors, our city council members, our commissioners, our boards of education, our law enforcement officials. And what I've seen here reinforces for me every day that we're not who people think we are because of the representative that we sent to Congress and Marjorie Taylor Greene. People didn't really know who she was back then. Came in and self-funded and basically bought a primary and then got a free pass in the general election. We've had 2 years almost to see exactly who she is. I mean, we're coming up on her 2-year evaluation, and she's done absolutely nothing for us. And the people here in this district see it. I don't just get out and talk to Democrats and independents. I talk to Republicans as well. And almost to a person, they tell me that they're embarrassed by I call it work. We're going to use that word loosely, that Marjorie Taylor Greene's done. The fact that she's getting nothing done for us. And we keep it on the issues that affect us here in Northwest Georgia.
Yeah, so I get the argument for sure. The thing that I was surprised by is that she did win her primary. So as part of her 2-year evaluation, at least the Republicans who participated in the primary said, yeah, keep going, MJT. And I'm wondering, or MTG, sorry. What's your take on, like, how did she win the primary why did people want to send her back, at least from within the Republican Party?
I mean, what you're seeing there in the primary is what we're seeing all over the country, to be honest with you. There's probably about a third, probably not even that much of the country that is buying into a lot of the rhetoric and misinformation that's being out there. But I get out and I have those tough conversations. Yes, she won her primary with 74% of the vote. I won my primary with 75% of the vote. This is going to be a close race. I can tell you that right now. But I think, because I get Republicans, independents, and Democrats all come up to me and say, thank me. And they thank me for what I'm doing. They thank me for running against this extremism, this radicalization that's taken hold in our country and, dominated our body politic for the last couple of years. People are exhausted with that. They're exhausted with the anger and the fear and the white hot rhetoric that they're seeing. And I guarantee you, we're going to get a good result out of this.
So I guess part of the math will be you're going to have to bet that there's a big chunk of Republicans who didn't participate in the primary who are like, I'm not really super excited about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and this Marcus guy seems a little more reasonable. Is that is you're going to need to flip a bunch of Republicans to vote for a registered Democrat?
Well, I can tell you what, from what I'm seeing on the ground and from running the numbers, they're there. They are there. There may be some ticket splitters. We've got to energize our Democratic base. Now, the district has changed with redistricting. It got bluer. So, I don't pay attention to all these PVIs that say the district is this, the district is that. The people of Northwest Georgia, who I think they are, they're kind, generous, and caring people. And they know that Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't represent their values. I can tell you that with certainty because I'm out in the district every day. We've knocked over 60,000 doors. We've built the infrastructure here in this district to get a winning result.
One of the things that Marjorie Taylor Greene and sort of let's just call them like extreme MAGA have done well is they have branded all Democrats as people who do not care about law and order or are anti-firearms of any kind and are complete socialists. Like how do you help when you knock on those doors? Some of them might assume that and they're like, oh, you've got a letter D in parentheses by your name, you must be for all of these things and then Tifa and whatever. How do you kind of thaw that kind of division?
Oh, we've absolutely had those conversations at the doors and out in the community, and we're talking. But people don't see that in me, there's really that takes just a little bit of scratching the surface to get to what's really important. And when we have those conversations, what we see is that we agree on more things than we disagree on. That's been my experience here in the district. It's about having those conversations. Again, I'll tell you, I talk to Republicans all the time, independents all the time, and they talk about the issues that we're facing right here in Northwest Georgia. That's what this campaign has become about. Even though it was born out of what happened on January 6th, what it's really become about are the issues that we're facing here in Northwest Georgia and how we're going to try and fix those.
Well, let's get into some of them. What are some of the top issues that the voters in the district care most about, and what would you do about them?
People talk to me all the time about inflation. They talk about housing. They talk about the opioid epidemic that we're facing here in our district. We talk about crime. We talk about taking care of our seniors, our veterans, and our children here in the district. And these are things that cut across party line. Those are the conversations that we have. One of the big issues that's, and it's kind of personal to me, is taking care of our veterans. Georgia has a huge veteran population here of about 640,000 veterans or more at any given time. And, here in our district, we don't have those VA facilities and people have to travel far and wide. Let's just say the closest VA facility to me is probably about an hour and 10 minutes away in Atlanta. Or we have veterans that have to travel up to Tennessee to go to a veterans facility. And just getting the care and taking care of them is something that's important to me and people here in the district. Crime, the uptick in issues surrounding mental health. I talked with our law enforcement officials on, policies and procedures that we could do to help, those with mental health crises, because they tell me, look, we're not doctors, we're not psychologists, we can't handle these issues. We don't have those type of facilities here in rural Northwest Georgia to take care of these people who, are obviously suffering from mental health issues. And all the police can do is lock them up, send them for an evaluation, let them go, and they're dealing with the same issues over and over and over again. These are issues that we can tackle. Our infrastructure here, whether it be our rural broadband, I have places in the district where, I drive around this district, which is huge geographically, and there are times where I'm 15 minutes without any kind of cell phone coverage. And it's ridiculous because it keeps us from bringing in larger companies and creating jobs. These are things that people want to see solved here in the district, and that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's not what I see Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about every day.
We're talking about none of that.
Yeah. Tell me let's talk a little bit about some current events and what your read is on them. So obviously, we've got this war in Ukraine, and there's different views on that. I'm curious what you think should be America's role in that conflict, and what you think we should do going forward.
I mean, I think we've struck exactly the right tone with our support for Ukraine. I mean, let's face it, what they're doing is fighting for democracy. They're pushing back against Putin's adventurism and trying to take over their country. And, and if allowed to go unchecked, where else would he go? You got Georgia, you've got other Baltic nations that he would probably try to do the same thing in. As far as putting boots on the ground in Ukraine, I think this administration is making the right move by not doing that, but supporting Ukraine with weapons assistance. I feel like that's exactly the right tone, coming from the world that I come from, understanding, how to mount a pretty good counteroffensive by all intents and purposes is what Ukraine has done. They've shown a willingness to fight for democracy, to fight for their country, for their brothers and sisters. And I think we're doing the right thing by supporting them in that.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive how Ukraine has managed to defend themselves with their own boots on the ground, with their own people.
Absolutely.
And that's, you didn't see as much of that like in our work in Iraq and Afghanistan in terms of like the will to do it on their own.
That was one of the issues that we had in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was part of those NATO training missions where we were, helping, train Iraqi and Afghan armies and their national police to, bring the fight to Al Qaeda and ISIS. You didn't get the same type of response that the Ukrainians did, and it's it's encouraging. Everybody thought in the beginning that this is going to be over in 30 days. Putin was going to take, was just going to roll right over the Ukraine. And that didn't happen because they've shown a willingness to defend their democracy there.
I've been surprised that there are a lot of people that are defending Russia's actions here in the U.S. I think one of the narratives is, Putin was kind of forced into a corner, and that if only NATO had not, grown, or if it had been disbanded, we wouldn't have any of this Russian activity. That this is like a defensive effort in some way. I don't happen to share that view, but I'm curious what your take is.
Yeah, I can't see how anybody would fall for that narrative. And that's more misinformation and propaganda coming out of Putin's FSB. So I think that's nonsense. We see what Putin did in Crimea beforehand, what he did in Georgia. These are arguments that are baseless. Putin has shown his hand that he thought that he should take those countries back over that were part of the former Soviet Union. So I don't think anything that NATO did justifies his response. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I always find it strange that people are siding with Vladimir
It's the
Putin.
weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, it's crazy. But people who declare themselves as patriots and big fans of America, then all defending Putin's actions is hard to reconcile. But
it's one thing to say you're a patriot, but it's another thing to put it on the line and go spend a decade in combat zones like myself and swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I see Putin as an enemy. So,
yeah, and I guess
siding with our enemy, what does that say about your patriotism, so to speak?
Yeah, and given your work in the Department of Defense and the electronic warfare and stuff, I'm guessing you probably saw some activities that the Russians did that were not friendly and pro democracy and that kind of thing. It's not just talk; they actually did stuff. Yeah.
Let's just say I have a different perspective from most people. So
yeah, fair enough. Let's talk a little bit about. I know you're going to have to run in a few minutes, but I have to ask you about immigration. Mm-hmm. It's a hot topic. I'm a bit of a moderate on this one. Mm-hmm. I don't think we can be inhumane, but I also know we can't accept every person that's seeking asylum in the world. There's just not enough space and resources.
Right.
How do you thread that needle? What's your take on what America should do about immigration?
I mean, when you look at immigration, this has been not just a new hot topic. It's been a hot topic for several administrations. And the way I look at it is we haven't sat down with each other, both parties sitting down and really focusing on the issues. Yes, I get that at the southern border, there is a problem. There's no doubt that there's a problem. But these political stunts that are being done by the likes of Governor DeSantis and Governor Abbott, that's not doing anything to solve the problem. It's not doing a thing to solve the problem. I believe that there should be a pathway to citizenship for, those who do all the right things, everything that we ask them to do. But we do have to address this issue. We have to address it together and come up with solutions and actually implement those solutions, pass legislation that relieves the pressure that we're feeling down at the border. The political stunts is not the way to do it.
Last question before we wrap up, Marcus. Any thoughts on the environment and climate change? I know a lot of people still argue that it's not a real thing. It's just some weird weather here and there. What's your take?
Well, let me approach it from a national security perspective. One of the things that most of our top generals can agree on is that it does present a national security risk. And we were just talking about immigration and the southern border. If we don't get this fixed, we think we have a problem now at our southern border. Imagine what it looks like when millions of climate refugees are pouring in from all of our borders. So, I mean, the climate crisis is real. It's here. We have to address it now and come up with legislation together. Again, I believe in bipartisanship. I believe we need two strong parties who are both working and rooted in reality to get something done. And that's my take on it.
Well, Marcus, I hope you make it over there and make some nerd history.
Absolutely. We're about getting things done.
Yeah.
The logistics guy in me just wants to get something done for the American people.
You seem like a doer. and someone that just wants to fix problems and work together as a team. I hope your district agrees, and I would love to have you back on the show, regardless of what the outcome is. In the future,
I'd
to
love
talk
to
about
come
your
back.
take on things. It's been
I
great.
would love to come back and talk about you when we're the congressman, because I think we have an absolutely great chance of getting this done. From what I'm seeing on the ground, again, I'm humbled and encouraged by what I see. So stay
If
tuned, brother.
Yeah, how can people help you if people are watching this and they're saying, "Hey, I like this guy. I wanna help him win." What can they do?
Well, let me tell you, you can go to our website, which is www.marcusforgeorgia, all spelled out. That's MarcusForGeorgia.com. And if you're in the district, come out and knock doors with us. Volunteer to knock some doors with us, and have the conversation with our our neighbors here in Northwest Georgia. If you can't do that, I understand. If you're somewhere else, we also do phone banking. We do it every day. We do a training session, and then we do phone banking and talk to people every day here. Well, every weekday here in our district. If you can't do either of those things, we need money to run this campaign. It's our grassroots donations average about $20. Uh, we don't take corporate PAC money, but we will take small dollar contributions from people all over the country, because let's face it, Marjorie Taylor Greene with her QAnon conspiracy theories is a fundraising juggernaut, and we're doing everything we can to keep up with her so that we can push back in this 50-day stretch that we have left. With your help, we can do it. Congress belongs to everybody, and people like Marjorie Taylor Greene don't represent any of us.
Thank you, Marcus Flowers from Georgia, challenging Marjorie Taylor Greene. With that, we'll say goodbye, nerds.
Thanks, Tom. Goodbye, nerds. You guys have a wonderful week. I got to get back out on the campaign trail. Thank you for having me.
All right, give him hell out there, Marcus. See ya.
Will.
Bye.
Thanks.
All right. What a cool dude. How awesome would it be if he won? Definitely going up against a extreme MAGA superstar and celebrity in Marjorie Taylor Greene. I always say MJT, but I actually think MTG would be more appropriate. Um, Any rate, marcusforgeorgia.com. And if you like him, he's not yet getting a lot of approval votes on ofthepeople.us. So if you go to ofthepeople.us, I'll show you. Hold on. Ofthepeople.us. And you click on his profile. And then so right now it's ordered by who's gotten the most recent approval votes. Oh, he's number 2. He just popped up. Okay, he was a little bit lower. Maybe a couple people saw it and voted for him on the show. Yeah, you just click on his profile. Number 1, you can read about him. You can actually, for future people, you can see my interview with him, and you see his recent tweets. And then you can see similar candidates. But if you click on this blue approval button, and then log in, it's a free, then he will show up higher on this list, and he's now number 2. So maybe he'll make number 1 later. Thanks, everybody. I've got to get back to work, but I don't have, do I have time to thank our channel members? Okay, let me do it real quick. To the people who make this channel possible, and I'm digging this new camera that I was able to purchase because of support from our channel members. So if you are watching this, go on YouTube, click that join link, and help us keep making this this content better for you. All money goes to just growing the channel and improving the content and getting more guests and all that good stuff. So it's going to a good cause. Our biggest supporter is Soldier One. So thank you, Soldier One, for making this channel possible. You're awesome. And next up, after Soldier One at our VP level, we have Kristen Slevin and Bike. Then at the hardcore level, We have Gene, David, DK, Mr. History, Yang, Robert, Dean, Statner, Galessa, Mona, Dana, Jason, Parth, AH, Jay Perrin, Jackalego, Daniel, Kirsch, Vaughn, and Mickey. And then at the verified level, this is the entry level. It's only like $1.99 a month. Cancel anytime. Lisa, Albert, Brandon, Arez, Sophia, Emerald, Ben, Doris, Rasta, James, Emma, Ira, Shoni, Dr. William, Karen, Semery, Brittany, Warren, Arden, Lucky, Kevin, Mai, Nell, Jeremy, Toby, David, Nicholas, Mike, Elizabeth, Aurora, Lisa, Mercy Ann, Jameson, N, and channel has been deleted. And who are our youngest nerds overall? The most recent joiners to the nerddom. They are N. Carter, someone whose channel was deleted. Jameson and Mercy Ann rejoined, so thank you. And then Aurora, Lisa, and Mickey are some new members. And then Elizabeth Norris rejoined. She's 22 months supporting us. So thanks all the channel members. And guys, have a great day. Goodbye, nerds.